GMac is in the fold for the Orange, and we've got a special guest to talk about the origin story of one Jerry McNamara. The Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital Live starts right now.
Let's go! It's time for the talk to you. 'Cause when it's your fault, it's always coming to. And Boy Green is always on the scene. And what you always bring to the live streaming. So get ready, ready. Get ready, 'cause here they come.
All right, welcome aboard, everybody. Happy Monday. It's the Monday Live Show, Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital at MC Show Digital. Hit that like as you enter the room. It's always good to give us a little thumbs up. Also, you can subscribe to the channel if you're not already. See the link right there, youtube.com/at MC Show Digital. You go right to our homepage. You can see our entire archive of the last 7+ months that we've been doing this digital dance, as I say. Speaking of dancing, March Madness underway, and the big story here in Central New York and Syracuse is the hiring, or the eminent hiring. I guess it isn't official.
Expected hire, right?
Yes, but the expected hiring of one Jerry McNamara as the new head coach of the Syracuse basketball team. Boy Green and I did a pop-up live show yesterday as soon as the news broke, and we had lots of people obviously very intrigued and interested in this story. It is the son coming home, coming back home to now take over the program, from, it's not from old man Pops anymore because he's been gone for 3 years, but nonetheless, he's back. It's a lore to it. Jerry McNamara not only won a national championship here in 2003 at Syracuse, but then he had his own legendary status after Carmelo Anthony left and went to the NBA and made shots in the Big East tournament and really kind of epitomized the idea of the blue-collar worker and hustle and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to break it all down, talk all about it, and talk a little bit about the origin story of Jerry McNamara. And to do that with us is a guy who many people who watched or listened to, I should say, the Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital, especially during the pandemic. He was one of our regular guests. He was breaking down, remember Michael Jordan's what is The Last Dance?
The Last Dance. That's right.
Yeah, The Last Dance, the documentary that Michael Jordan put out about the Bulls and his journey through those championships. And he was breaking it all down with us and helping us provide content. But he's one of my favorite people in the world. We still keep in touch with him. So does Boy Green. Let's welcome him to the show. Formerly with The Athletic, and he wrote for the Daily Orange. We're going to talk to him about an article he wrote back in 2017 for the DO. It's the one, the only Goody, as we call him, Matthew Gutierrez. What's up, Matt? How are you?
Great to be here. Thank you for the warm welcome, bringing back good memories from 6 years ago, almost to the week, right, since the pandemic began, and we were jamming on Mondays. So applaud what you guys are building on YouTube, which is an amazing platform, and great to chat here about some somewhat big news the past couple of days.
Remember those pandemic days, right? Like, that was like, we're all like in different places. We're all locked up, man. Was that like, I know for me, Matt, I could say this, it was kind of cathartic, to continue doing what we were doing, despite the fact that there really was very little going on in sports. And yet we found ways to fill up the time. As I mentioned, you and me and Boy Green we're breaking down episodes of The Last Dance, kind of like we do every Wednesday night, breaking down Survivor episodes. Was it cathartic for you? I wonder what that felt like for you, as somebody who was being asked to come into our show and contribute in the way that you did.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely on my end. I've even just zooming out from a non-sports perspective, I thought for me, and obviously it takes a privilege to be in that spot, to be healthy and not have to worry about the actual COVID. But I mean, the number of hours I got with family, friends, FaceTimes, calls, exercise, sleep. I think a lot of people, not just me, found that family time and health and wellness and just like chill, just to step back for a couple of months as a really nice reprieve from the go that we all can be used to.
Yeah, and I would say this, first off, just on that, it really helped my relationship with my fiance, because I work, 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 work. So to be able to just, for those who forget, Lurch, you said, it was me, you, and Goody. Well, I mean, I was on furlough. So, like, I got thrown out for
Yeah,
3
that's
months
right.
and I wasn't allowed. They gave me instructions. They said, hey, buddy, not only are you not going to work for the next 3 months, but you can't have any connection to the show. You can't do nothing. You have to, that's part of the rules, and sign this, and or else. And I went, okay.
Yeah, Paul was basically shunned from the show. So
For 3
yes,
months.
I worked with someone else for 3 months
Goody. Yeah,
until
and he did a lot of work with you.
Goody came in and
So,
helped, right? Jordan
yeah.
McGee helped a bit.
Yes,
Yeah,
of
we had
course.
a number of people just jumping in, guest hosting, helping me fill up the airwaves in the time. That was so crazy. Oh my God.
It was. And I will say this, and I'm pretty sure that's how I met Goody, is we were on the beat together, sitting next to each other, covering basketball games and everything else, and being in the locker room and all that stuff pre-COVID. So that was a hell of an experience. And I will be honest, Goody, that's how you popped. Like, I love, us connecting on social media. So I get to see, your life and all these wonderful things that are happening with you. And you were sharing photos, and we'll show some of them on the show here very shortly, about an old GMac story you did. And I was like, Goody, he's got to come back on the show. That's what's happened to us, like a lightning
Waiting for our chance to get you back. This is a beautiful thing that this happened this way. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. GMac, I wish I had gotten closer with him covering the team. He was a little bit, he's very not into the spotlight, and he's just kind of a low key guy. And I'll get into some of his upbringing and maybe about why. And his parents are super sweet. They lived in, I think they still live there, I'm not sure, but they lived in Scranton for decades in the same house. Very just sort of chill, friendly people, kind of will make lunch and welcome the neighbor, that sort of friendly vibe there. But just didn't get as close to GMac as maybe I thought I did, or wanted to on the beat. Whereas Red and obviously Coach Boeheim were a little bit more in the media. But G, when I did speak to him, my point here is when I did speak to him, it was pure gold every time. Like, I would always, in March Madness, when they opened the locker room for like 30, 40 minutes, I would like make a beeline to GMac just to like get some insights on, obviously some of the other games, but just like who's developing the team, X's and O's. He was like so advanced with that stuff. Obviously some of the players are just not going to get into the weeds like on that stuff, understandably, at 19 years old, whereas G just had that mind.
Matthew, let's talk a little, we'll kind of do this kind of almost in a timeline kind of way. So you write this piece on GMac for the DO, and you actually go visit his home. You meet his parents. You were telling me you even had some corned beef with the family because they are of Irish descent, obviously. The name McNamara kind of gives that away. What was that like, being at his house? Boy Green, he'll throw it back up in a second, was just showing the side of the house there. And if you see that little pole, I know it's a little hard to see, especially if you're on your phone watching the show, as so many people do. That is the basketball. That's the there's a backboard normally attached to that with the rim. I guess it's no longer there, but that little patch of pavement there is where Jerry McNamara developed his jump shot. I mean, that's so bleeping crazy. But what was it like being in Scranton and being there for kind of this origin story about who Gerry is, about how he grew up, about what the people around him were like?
Yeah, it's a great question. So it's fall 2017. He's still an assistant. This is just, I don't know how many months, 6 to 8 months after Hop had left in early 2017. So GMac was sort of, I don't want to say in the running for to succeed Boeheim, but he was, with Hop gone, I knew GMac was level with rise in the program as a talent developed guy, as a recruiter, as helping Boeheim make some decisions in games, perhaps. So I went down there. Yeah, his parents couldn't have been more welcoming. I walk in, there was like lunch and tea on the table the second I got there. We just chatted for hours about his career. But what's interesting is, like, the first thing you notice when you walked into that home is there is no memorabilia, no items, nothing about Gerry or Syracuse anywhere in the house, which is I've been to a number of homes of professional and college players, and it's unusual, even for the more low key, less rah people. There's usually a couple of photos or a jersey or just something on the fridge, anything. There was nothing for this guy who won a national title and has had such a storied career as both a coach and at the time as an assistant coach at Syracuse. So I found that really interesting, and I think it just spoke to something his brother said, which is that Jerry's never really wanted much attention or never sought attention. And I think he's very, very confident in himself. There's no doubt about that. But I think at the same time, he's got a sort of a quiet, humble edge to him. His dad, hard worker. This is a working class neighborhood in Scranton. His dad was a Marine, worked at the post office for a long, long time. So they were just like a family, just, trying to have a good life and get by in Northeast Pennsylvania. And one of those things that they bonded over was certainly playing. That's actually the backyard, Jim.
The backyard.
Yeah, the backyard. Oh, yeah. I'm 99% sure it was the backyard. Yeah, that's where Jerry started with his dad. And the backboard, as you can see, is not there, but he would just take shot after shot after shot for hours. And his one thing that was really interesting is they did a lot of dribbling work, obviously, as Jerry was an incredible guard, but he practiced with his left hand a lot. His dad made him tie his strong hand, his right hand, behind his back, or leave it behind his back, maybe not physically tie, and just practice with the left hand for hours. And that's how he developed such a good, ball handling skill set as well. Pretty neat.
Wow, that's neat. So tell us, here's another picture. This is a GMac jersey. Where was this buried? Did they have to, dig this up for you to find one of these? No memorabilia around? Did you bring up, guys, where is all the stuff? This guy's like this decorated guy here. We've already talked about on the show this week, the most popular player in Syracuse basketball history. But where the heck did they have to, was this under like a coffee table to hold it upright? Where was this thing?
So that actually wasn't even in the house. I know it's hard. I posted this on Instagram and X. So it's kind of hard to have context on everything.
Right.
Platforms. But so I think his dad said, I asked, do you have anything? He's like, yeah, but it's probably all dusty up in the attic somewhere. And we didn't, and that was the end of the conversation. Yeah, so they might have a little bit. I'm sure Jerry has some stuff at his house, either in storage or on display. I have no idea. But this is actually, so it was an interesting juxtaposition, right? His house, nothing, just a normal house. You wouldn't even know someone liked sports, honestly. And then you have in town all these couple shops, like sports stores, clothing stores with all kinds of GMac jerseys for sale or on display. And then there was at least one or two restaurants with this display. So this was a local restaurant.
Oh, okay.
I'm blanking on the name. I can probably get it or maybe someone from Scranton in the chat can chime in. But it's a very popular place right down the street from Jerry's childhood home, and where a lot of locals would gather to watch Cuse games. Even recently, if they weren't, unless they were at the game, of course, when he was playing all the bus loads. So yeah, this is at a local restaurant. There was a GMac jersey, I think front and back there, maybe a little magazine with G on the cover, that sort of thing. So they had a nice little section in town.
Goody, as you've kind of looked from afar, because you are an SU alum, you went to school, you're obviously still an SU fan. What in your mind is the state of the program now? What Gerry is actually walking into today?
I think they're in a tough spot. I've texted just a few former players, not too many, but a few, and I forget which game it was, but there was a game toward the end of this season, and the consensus in those text messages from the players was, this does not resemble the school or program I played for. And I think it was somewhat about talent, yes, but it was really about the effort, energy, sort of buy-in. I know it's a cliche that they had seen on TV. And I think there was a lot of just sort of, maybe the frustration was there the last few years, but when you miss 6 out of the last 7 big dances, because I know COVID was canceled, but they weren't making the tournament that year unless they basically won out at the ACC tournament, which I think we all know wasn't going to happen, given Syracuse's, recent lack of success versus anyone that's good in the ACC. Like those top teams, there's just so many games I feel like on ESPN where they're just down by 25. And I know they've had that comeback versus UNC, for example. But it's like out of all these games, by 15 minutes in, and it's just been disappointing. I think I'm not sharing my opinion, but disappointing for a lot of these former players who expressed that in text. So, GMac I think has a very, very tough road ahead. I think there's at the same time a huge opportunity for him as well. Both things are true, but they just need to elevate, I think, the program in every facet, and starts with him obviously, and who he'll choose to sort of fill out his staff here, which will be interesting.
Yeah, Goody, I'll tell you, I was just listening because, again, we're in the middle of March Madness, of course, and Tom Izzo was at his press conference, and someone among the beat that was there, national, local, everything, said, Coach, Tom Izzo, you've had like a million teams over the years, and yet the players always change, but you're the same. You're always running the operation. And the beat reporter told Tom Izzo that like your team always looks the same, whether it's here in 2026 or 2 years ago in 2024, whatever year, it's always the same. And Tom Izzo responded to the beat report. He says, "You just pushed off my retirement by 2 years because that's the greatest compliment I could ever receive. Because, that's the ultimate compliment. That's exactly what you want to see." And then just hear the other side of it. And Syracuse players watching this go, "What is this? This is nothing of what, we were preached about, or the principles, or the anything." Like, it just goes to show, the both sides of the coin. On one side, Tom Izzo, that there's an identity regardless of the players. And now we're here at Syracuse in this very interesting position where they've fallen so far. But to your point, there's opportunity here for GMac. You never want to be the guy after the guy. You want to be the guy after the other guy. And now that's GMac. That's a sandwich. Boeheim, Autry, GMac. So I'm sure he didn't plan it out this way. I'm sure GMac would have loved the opportunity the first whack around, but I think there's going to be like a honeymoon period. GMac super popular. Things were terrible, quite frankly, with Autry. Now, there's going to be an opportunity. He's going to have a little bit of a runway here to try to change and turn this thing around and get his imprints all over it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you hit the nail on the head, I think, with Izzo. You see that with someone like Hurley at UConn. All these teams, I know they're not maybe as talented as they were the back-to-back title teams a few years back, but you see the intensity, the offensive flow, like everything is just like Hallmark Hurley, Hallmark UConn, at least the last under him, which is a testament to them, and that's why they've been so successful. I think with Duke, with Shire, you see that. I know he's a Coach K tree guy, but you see that with these big programs. So it'll be interesting though to see what G does. I'm curious offensively, because Boeheim ran such a loose, free-flowing isolation offense and let his talented players just do their thing, as opposed to a more traditional college coach would have a lot more sets and plays. Like, he rarely called really any of that. Some of their most sophisticated plays were like pick and rolls, and Autry continued that. I mean, watching that offense was really rough at times, and talented guys could bail you out. Like when Boeheim and Hop, and they were really humming on the recruiting trail. You don't need a lot of great offensive plays because you have such talented players. And that's what, helped Syracuse to so much success for all those years. But once the recruiting started to fall off right around after that 16, I think it was the 2016 or 2015 class with Malachi, the recruiting, the rankings, and I think the quality of player wasn't quite what it was, at least during the amazing years of like 09 to 14, and even in the 90s. Once the recruiting fell off, that stale offense got old real quick, right? And now that they're moving with a new coach again, it'll be really interesting to see if G runs a sort of Boeheim Autry-esque offense, which would be a lot of pick and roll and just simple screen action, or will he be a lot more creative and instill his own scheme, which he did a little bit at Siena. I don't know if you guys watched a lot of Siena. I did not, but
No, I didn't.
At least in that Duke game, there were a little bit more advanced offensive movement than what Q's has run recently. You saw some like little flare action or just some off ball down screens to free up a guy for a three, which is already more than what Q's has drawn up in the last few years.
Matthew, does it impress you what Jerry McNamara was able to do at Siena to take a team from 4 wins to, close to 500 and then inevitably now to the NCAA tournament and then to extend Duke the way he did? I mean, we said it the other day. I mean, that was the greatest job audition you could possibly have. You've got a team, your alma mater, looking for a coach. They're trying to decide. You're somewhere on the list, and all of a sudden it looks like he jumped 3 spots on the list because that was an epic performance, even in a loss, that his team competed with Duke that way. Because let's face it, we have to go back. What'd you say? It was 7 years ago? Boy Green was my guess the other day. I think that was the number since Syracuse has beaten Duke, and many of them have been blowouts.
Right.
So here's little old Siena, who has a third of the talent of Syracuse, and they take him to the brink. How impressed were you with what he's done at Siena, and how has that better in your mind prepared him for what he has to face now here at Syracuse?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think so. I was even thinking over the weekend, had Siena lost by 20 or 30, whatever this, the projections were, would he still have had this offer from Cuse? I think probably. I don't know. Maybe you guys can have an opinion. I think so. But I think, like, to your point, that was the greatest audition for sure. And basically had him there. I mean, gave Duke all they could handle, had that game. For sure. And you could say this about a lot of close games, but the ball, a couple shots here or there, the ball spins a different way and you win. So I think he did everything he possibly could with what he had, given the talent differential in those squads. And that's no slight to Siena. That's just who they were facing. And I think Jim or Boy Green, you guys said this yesterday, and I want to make note of it again, is G's energy on the sideline in that game. I know it's an NCAA game, but granted, he was in that game himself. It was almost, there were a couple times during the highlights I saw him creep onto the court like a Patino, like a vintage Boeheim, like he's in the game himself. I think that's what you want from this next coach, especially coming off a more zen, more chill vibe with Autry, which can certainly work. But I think right now what Syracuse needs is someone with a little bit of fire in them, and someone that can really come in and get these guys to play a lot harder, because frankly, that's what I think they need, to play a lot more engaged with one another.
Yeah, totally agree with that, Goody. I mean, I just think, I love Adrian Autry, and I said it. I mean, I think he's a really good dude, but like you said, he's more zen. And I just think that this team needs a kick in the butt right now. This team needs somebody who's like in it to win it, is pushing his own personal competitive fire, into the fire himself and saying, I'm in this with you guys. The stuff that we heard from the Siena players was really cool all the way through this short journey of how they were one, how they were connected. We've seen, as you often do on television these days and on the internet, the scenes in the locker room, after the game, and the things that Gerry was saying to his team throughout that MAC tournament that they ended up winning, and how the team was rallying around him, how they were becoming and gelling as a unit. We haven't seen that. I want to see a Dino Babers moment here for the Syracuse basketball team. That's what we need these days, Goody. We do.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you guys have talked about this. There'll be the honeymoon period, I think. And just with him being there will be a certain buzz. He's such a popular, player and just figure in the area. I feel like everybody loved him. I do have another funny story. So in 2018, Syracuse was in the Sweet 16 in Omaha. I think they played Duke. Was it Sweet 16 or Elite 8 that they played Duke? Might have been the it must have been 16, I believe. Anyway, so 2018, they're in Omaha. The arena across from the hotel across from the arena had a bunch of Kansas fans, because Kansas was also in town. And I saw a bunch of them. So I walked over to them. I just said, I'm from Syracuse, covering the team. And the first thing they all brought up, of course, was the 03 title game and how bitter they were still. And that's what they wanted to talk to me about for 45 minutes.
Wow.
And they called GMac an unheralded freshman, which not necessarily true, but I understand compared to Mello, maybe not so well known. And I told this to Jerry's brother, and he said, well, unheralded, they should see how many clips and national publications and articles and video, we have of Gerry. I'll send it to them. They won't believe that anymore, but pretty neat. I do want to say one thing about
Yes, sir.
Gerry and I think, he's an honest guy. I think he would say this as well. On the recruiting trail as an assistant coach, I think he left a little bit to be desired, honestly. And I think some former players have felt this way too. Most of the top Cuse guys that came in the last decade plus were either obviously from Boeheim, but Hop or Red guys that were brought in. You go down the list, almost all of them were. The lead recruiter was Hop or Red. Gerry, I think, shot for the moon on a lot of guys and missed. Quade Green comes to mind. I know he didn't pan out that well, but guys like that who were 5 stars that, let's face it, Cuse has never been like a 5-star pipeline, right? Usually Syracuse's best teams have been taking those 3 and 4-star recruits and molding them into incredible players for Syracuse, right? You go down the list, even draft guys. So I think it'll be really interesting. I know he recruited well at Siena, but this is a different beast now. We'll see how the NIL picture plays out. I don't have any insights on that, but I think for him to really win here, he's going to need to sort of up his game and or have an incredible staff around him that can bring in the right players.
Matthew, go ahead, Lurch.
All right, let me jump in quick.
Just
a quickie. This is an interesting nuance to me that I wanted to ask you about, and that is, so assuming Gerry comes here, and all signs are pointing that he's going to be here. All right. Yeah. Is it harder or easier for Gerry with Melo and Melo's kid on the team, and with Jim Boeheim still around a bit? Like Boeheim has kept his distance from Autry, and I really thought that was actually a classy way to handle that situation. But does it make it harder or easier for Gerry having those two near the program?
I don't know if it's either, really. I think he'll be able to handle it regardless of those guys. I don't think does it help a little bit, maybe, but Anthony's certainly not in the best player in the program, and unless he makes a huge leap in the next couple of years, he doesn't project to be the guy, I don't think. So I don't think it's like he's revolving around him. That might complicate it a little bit if he was the guy in the program and there was a situation with him and G and playing time and whatnot, but I don't think so. It is an interesting question, but I don't have anything, insightful really to add other than I think Gerry will be totally fine with that just interpersonal dynamic.
He'll be able to be his own man, is what you're saying. That's what I think he has to be. He comes in here, Matthew. I think he has to be his own man. Go ahead, BG.
Yeah, Goody. I've known you for some time, and one of God's gifts that He bestowed upon you is you're a storyteller. You like good stories. Well, I mean, look at this from John Rothstein. Syracuse and Providence are set to meet next season in a neutral site game at TD Garden in Boston. They have that Brian Hodgson guy over there, GMac, the promised prince that was versus the promised prince that's delivered. Interesting. Goody, huh? Is there a little extra juice? Huh? A little storyline? Did Hodgson, reject Syracuse's invite to the prom? Was it even there? What was really happening? Anything on that, Goody?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how some of the details play out. We kind of got some bits and pieces, reports and this and sources and blah, blah, blah. But like once it all comes out, as it always does, it'll be interesting to see how that played out. But yeah, I'm excited for this. I have a few friends have already texted potentially looking to attend this game as alums in a great city in Boston. And yet, G, being an Irish guy, Boston, an Irish city, another cool tie there. But yeah, I'm excited for this. And I think a lot of, Syracuse alums and fans, especially in the New York area where I am, want to see more Syracuse games in New York, back at the Garden, not Barclays Center, but at MSG, and see them be like competitive there, and see this team, not necessarily make the Final Four, every 5 years or every 10 years, but be there in March, year in and year out. I think that's just what a lot of folks were accustomed to and grew up with, and are looking to get back to.
Goody, just my last one here is going to be to go back to that origin story that you wrote all those years ago, and just seeing where Gerry grew up and meeting his parents and seeing the neighborhood. How does all that, when you put it in the blender, how does all that make him a better coach, or make him the coach he's going to be here at Syracuse? What is it about that mix that makes it interesting? Because to me, he's like one of us. He's a working class stiff that, worked his way to this point. I didn't even realize it. I was telling Boy Green off the air, sometimes I'm good with numbers and sometimes I'm not. And Pete Thamel had written that Jerry McNamara was assistant coach at Syracuse for 15 years. And I was like, what? No, he wasn't. It was like 6 years or 7 years, just like half of that. And then we went and looked it up. It was like, no, it was 15 years. Like, that's how quietly Gerry was, working the craft over there and figuring things out. I didn't even realize that. So give me your take on that. What you saw when you went to Scranton and how that makes the man.
Yeah, it's a great question. I saw, very welcoming, friendly parents. I think it started there. And it seemed like he was really raised right, as just respectful, hardworking. I think you kind of see that with how former players at Cuse have talked about him, and how he appears in interviews. He's not quite someone to, talk down on others, or people asking the questions, right? Which I know we've all been accustomed to. Just very respectful, and I think he knows how to handle a room well. He's very fiery, but I wouldn't say he's like rah either. I don't think he's like necessarily going to go, watch, he'll do this, right? But viral for big pregame or halftime speeches necessarily. I don't know if that's necessarily the fiery he is, but he's just sort of got it in him. Is he going to be really successful? I have no idea. Time will tell. I'm not going to make any grand predictions like that. But growing up, just hardworking, blue collar family, I think all you need to know is how warm, really warm, welcoming mother, and a dad who just showed up every day to work at the post office, and that's sort of what they molded him into.
And by the way, how was that corned beef sandwich?
Oh my gosh, so good. Yeah, it was great, and I just loved hanging out with both parents. This is 2017, so nine years ago. And then drove around. I didn't even have an agenda. It was like the day before Thanksgiving, stuff was closed. I just drove around Scranton for maybe 4 hours, talking to shop owners. And like most people, I would say 90% of people I talked to had a Jerry McNamara story, whether it was, his name was mentioned on the loudspeaker at Walmart because he was in the store, or just something really cool about running into him at a restaurant. Him taking pictures with them more recently, or signing back in the day, pre-iPhones, him signing autographs for little kids, even if the line was really long. So nothing but love from that city. They call him Mr. Scranton. And you can, I'm sure, bet that there'll be plenty of the Scranton faithful up in central New York.
Yeah, years ago, I went down. Those are fun stories to cover, Goody, and that would sound like it was a fun one for you, because I went down when I was working at Channel 9 when the Hodge recruit, I'm forgetting his first name now, it's going to come to me in a second, but last name Hodge, he was a big recruit. Syracuse had him, and then he reneged. And then Syracuse needed to get another guy, and it ended up being Hakeem Warwick. All right. And Warwick is from the Philadelphia suburbs, and so drivable. So we hopped in a car, me and my photographer, Matt Tomlin, and we went down and did a day with Hakeem Warwick. We went to his high school practice. We interviewed him. We interviewed his mom. We met his family. We went to his house. And then, like you, I was like, we don't have to be back until tomorrow. We already were sending back the material we had. I said, let's check it out. Let's absorb this neighborhood a little bit. Let's walk around a little. Let's go in some of the shops. Let's see if anybody knows who this kid is, And it was a fun experience, just kind of getting a taste of what someone's upbringing is like, what walking around town is like. Those things used to matter in life. I grew up in a neighborhood in Queens, Goody. Okay, I know you live in Queens now these days too. My son, we were just talking off air yesterday. My son lives actually right in your neighborhood, and
that's great.
Yeah, that's like, I like neighborhoods, and any of us that grew up in a neighborhood, and Jerry McNamara is one of those guys. All right, there's something to growing up in a neighborhood. It's cool.
Absolutely, I loved that. Like, everybody knew each other. There's not a lot of movement in the neighborhood, which I know can be good in some areas, but there's like, everyone knows everyone. There's like, maybe the doors are locked, maybe not. People are friendly. People are making food for people who are sick or whatnot. That's a good vibe, Jim. And I totally agree. I think you're just getting at the end of the day, you're getting a hardworking Scranton kid, and it'd be really interesting to see how it all pans out, how he recruits and how he coaches, and how things go when things don't go well, which happens to every team. So let's find out.
Hey, Goody,
you got one more? Go ahead.
Yeah. I got two. I'll make it a two-parter to sneak in like any good beat reporter. One more question. All right. Well, this is a two-parter. The first one is this. You mentioned that GMac, and I can attest, as both of us, we're in the locker room, and he sort of stayed away from, sort of making anything about him or anything of that nature. So when you approach him about this story about going to his house, was he receptive to the idea? Was he like, yeah, pal, no thanks? So what was sort of the, breaking, going behind the scenes here of, the pitch and then the acceptance apparently eventually from GMac and his family? What was sort of the receptiveness there of the GMac clan?
It brings back a great memory. I still remember the lunch there at their house, and the sandwich and the cold cuts out, and the vibe of like this old house in Scranton with, I don't even think I understood the gravity of like where I was. This is where the shot was formed, right? Where the shot that led Syracuse to the title was like birthed, right? And this is just really cool to be there in that space. But you know what? Looking back, I believe he and I were playing phone tag like for a month, and I just couldn't. He would call, but I was in class, or then I would call, but he was recruiting or at practice. So I don't remember exactly, but I believe I just reached out directly to his parents, and so Gerry was not there when I was there. That would have been really cool for him to walk around and show me. I hit a shot.
Yeah, right.
This is where I learned how to take a 3-pointer for the first time. This is how I learned how to use, my lower half of my shot. Like that would have been amazing. Didn't quite get that, but just reached out to his parents and then met with I met with his brother one time to interview him at like the old Starbucks, when you're walking up the hill to the Dome. I don't think it's there, right? Across from the Whitman Business School.
Sure, if it is anymore, right?
And we hung out there. I don't think anyone recognized him. Very busy Starbucks, a lot of Cuse fans. Not one person knew that was,
wow.
I don't think one person knew it was Gerry's brother. But that just speaks to, I think they're just very low key. They're not like huge social media people. Never really were either. So yeah, it brings back a great memory. And I will say, I've been to now Gerry's childhood home court. I've been to Boeheim's home, which is now a funeral home, or was a funeral home, still is, I think, which had a basket in the back. So I was where he learned how to play basketball. And then I was also where Coach Autry grew up in Harlem. I've been to that court, and then I've been to Elijah Hughes's childhood home. Maybe a couple more, and I'll have a lot of a lot of the Syracuse faithful and Mellows, and at least the one in Red Hook. I don't know how much he played before moving to Baltimore, but Red Hook, Brooklyn, in the public housing there as well.
All right, here's the last one. Last one here, and it's this more hard hitting, I suppose, than where we've been going. There has been a massive debate on social media about whether Syracuse should have made a in-house hire or an out-of-house hire, and Jim Boeheim calling anyone stupid or idiots if they wanted an outside hire. And then he said, well, technically Gerry is an outside hire because he left. And then there's all these semantics and all this extra stuff. So thanks, Boeheim, for covering that. But there were some fans. We did this live show yesterday for like nearly 2 hours, and, a bunch of people interacted. And some of the negative stuff was, Syracuse claimed they're going to do this national search, and they end up on this Jerry McNamara rock. And a lot of people like, did they actually go through this search and go through that due diligence? Or did they just go to the GMac thing instead? So just a little bit here on that in-house versus out-of-house decision. If you have any, if you sit in any camp, one or the other of that decision-making and the divisive nature that exists on social media about it.
Yeah, I don't have tons of like actual intel from my perspective, though. I think if I were in those shoes, I would be going for the very, very best available, and whether that's in or out, I don't really even care. Did they shoot for someone big or 5 people and whiffed on all? I don't know, maybe, but to try to get more NIL dollars and a bigger name. But at the same time, and I know this is not a as optimistic of a viewpoint, but I think it's valid, is that I just don't know how many up and coming or big name coaches want to go to Syracuse. I don't think, now that I've also been removed from the program, I just divide nationally, it's not what it was 10 years ago. And that's just a fact that I think, Syracuse as a program and the fan base has to accept at this point, and then just try to move forward from it. You can definitely get back and return to glory, but it's not going to, they're not there right now. And I think that probably restricted some of the talent they could get out there.
Yeah, Matthew, I mentioned in the conversation we were having last week, you look his two programs to look at that we're both very familiar with. St. John's, which was in the dumpster fire, way worse than Syracuse even is in its present form. And look at them, basically the influx of a singular coach and now some donors, and boom. I mean, they are in it to win it, baby. And then the other look is Georgetown. All right. A team that really, since Big John left, I know they had a few years here or there and the Sun did well for a little bit, but the bottom line is Georgetown has never really bounced back from the glory days of John Thompson. And will they ever be able to figure it out? They're obviously in a market where, there are players to be recruited, and you could rebirth that thing very, very quickly, but they still haven't been able to figure it out. So there's two living, breathing examples of how you can and how you can't. Go either way, right?
Yeah. Jim, as I know your son's here in Forest Hills, I'm in Queens. It's 2 miles down the road is St. John's. Not that they really play many games there. They play at the Garden, but yeah, it's great. It's great to see that for New York City. And it is a proof that with the right person and the right overall NIL plan in place and execution, that you can work wonders in a short amount of time. We'll see. Can GMac lead this team to the big dance ASAP, like next March? I don't know. That might be a little ambitious, but if they can at least get knocking on the door again, back to that bubble talk, I think that's a really good year one.
Goody, I'll end it with this, a little fun one on the way out here for us. In your, I can't believe how young you are, and yet I will call you worldly because you have done some serious traveling. We are social media friends, so I get to see some of those pictures and some of those things that you post. So give us a little, like, bucket list place me and Boy Green have to go to that you have traveled to in this great world known as the Earth, planet Earth. Where we got to go? Where we got to go, Goody? You've gone to some amazing places, so this is going to be a good recommendation for me. I might have to put it right on the old bucket list.
Yeah, I've been fortunate to have either friends or family to stay with, and that helps. And visiting people, whether it's work or not. But I travel a lot based on yes, beauty, but food as well, as a huge.
You're a foodie.
So I kind of see it through that lens. So in that case, I generally have been suggesting, if someone wants a bigger trip, Japan. I know that's become a little bit trendy for Americans, but I really think it's a beautiful culture and place to see. The food is somewhat, arguably the best food country in the world, at least by Michelin star restaurants. Not that that's the number one barometer in life, but because hey, a great hole in the wall can be that most fancy restaurant, right? But it's number one for Michelin. It's number one for probably respect. The bowing when you enter and exit, and the cleanliness and the overall quietness in Tokyo, which is a city of, I don't know, 30 million plus people, I think, is astounding. Like, you can read a book in the middle of a lot of streets, I feel like, and not be distracted. Wow. So yeah, I suggest Japan to a lot of folks. I still have a lot of places I haven't been to, but I always have a soft spot in my heart for Italy. And I think that's a special culture. Obviously the food is off the charts. But even once you get off the tourist spots of the Colosseum and Rome and the Amalfi Coast, there's a lot of just adorable towns that you can train or rental car and just get, like, a grandmom who's been perfecting a pasta dish or a coffee or a bottle of wine for 45 years, and just walk in and be treated like, the grandson, first meeting, which is, I really value those experiences off the beaten path.
I've got the passport behind me, and I have not punched it for anything yet. I've actually gone. So I got a passport in 2015 for Survivor to get on the CBS reality show, because you have to have it ready just in case you get on the show. So I got it. and I went through 10 years. You get it for 10 years, but I never used it once to go anywhere. So that sucked. So I had to redo it because I was just on potentially, Lurch knows about this behind the scenes. I was on the precipice of going to the United Kingdom for a game show. And so like I got to a level of casting where you have to have your passport ready. So I had to get a new passport. And then I didn't make the show. So, and I still have this passport. So it has to get punched at some point. So apparently Japan or Italy. Okay.
Hey, for a first passport punch, those are both pretty big trips. You might want to, start smaller, although Europe is not too bad, but, and a lot of people speak English in those places. So it's not like you're a fish out of water, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe Jim has a suggestion for something a little more low key for trip number one.
Yeah. We'll work on that. But Goody, I can say this for Manchild, we friggin' love you, man. I'm glad that we're able to connect like this. I love watching your magical journeys on social media. I get to vicariously live through you when you go to all these amazing places. So it's funny how people are able to reconnect after a little bit of time. And it sounds like, we were just back together yesterday. So this was great, man. Thank you.
Awesome here. I'm going to potentially, I'm working with Gary V a little bit now, big Jets fan, and I'm gonna have to mention Boy Green at some point.
Make sure you do.
Yeah, we'll get you some.
Green likes that.
Yeah, baby.
Some more eyeballs.
It's Boy Green, Boy Green.
Whoa, hey, I love that. Yeah, you give it. Yeah, let Gary V know, baby. Boy Green, some Jets action. Yeah, oh yeah.
All right, Goody. Always great,
guys.
my friend. Blessed to have you as a friend, my friend. Thanks for spending a little time. Appreciate it.
Likewise.
Thank you.
All right, there he is, Matthew Gutierrez. Scooty back in the fold. That was fantastic. Going down memory lane there a little bit. Fascinating that he wrote that piece all those years ago, 2017, quite a while ago.
Yeah.
Jerry, an assistant coach for Syracuse at the time, and just the cool kind of offing of how that, how that tells us a little bit. I think one of the things you always want to look at, when in this case, you have a new coach, somebody coming in to take over a program, is what are their principles? Where do they come from? What should we expect of them? And while we've all seen Jerry McNamara, the player, and we've seen to a lesser extent Jerry McNamara, the assistant coach, and then we've got to see him back in the spotlight here at Siena as a head coach, including that nationally televised game against Duke, you're getting a little bit of better sense of who Jerry McNamara is. And I think that that's just really cool to experience that, and to go back in time and to see this, the backyard of his house there. And
that was cool. Yeah.
Imagine being in there. Like I said, that trip that I made down to Philly to see Hakeem Warwick's situation down there was really cool. So I can totally relate to, what that's like and what, how cool that is to kind of walk in the footsteps of a human being and see what was going on there. All right, we are presented today by Northeast Roofing Professionals. Today's video is brought to you by our friends at the Allen Floral Group, particularly the Floral Gardens, one of the many florists in the Allen Floral Group. So let's just take a moment, take a breather here, quick break from our sponsors, and then we're back. We'll break this all down. We'll talk a little bit more about Jerry McNamara and anything else that's going on in the world of sports today before we get out of here. Again, if you're in the room already and you're not a subscriber, hit the subscribe button, youtube.com/@MC-Show-Digital. And if you're already a subscriber, hit that like button, or you see in the scrolling ticker below, you can become a member and support the channel, which is always appreciated. You can do that just by hitting the the join button, right?
Yes.
Right on the homepage. So if you're on that homepage right there, youtube.com/@MC-Show-Digital, you'll see join if you're already a subscriber, and you can click that button in there. You can find out about our membership levels and how you can get involved and the nice perks that you get. And our store is open as well. We have a store in Etsy now that opened just a few weeks ago that I was working on for weeks and weeks. And again, the link is below, but you can buy cool merch. This hat, I'm wearing the shirt today, BG.
Oh, let's get the shirt in there. Yeah.
Shirt, baby.
Nice.
Up there. All right, cool logo on there. It's got the 12th MC on the sleeve too.
I love that logo. That pops.
I love the sleeve patch along with the regular logo. So all that stuff is available and a few other items. You've seen me sipping the coffee mug as well.
Sure.
It's 12th MC on one side and the Manchild logo on the other. These coffee mugs are awesome. I have the big one. I would advise getting the big one, although you can get a smaller one if you need a smaller one for whatever your uses are. But I like the big mug.
Two-tone color is very nice too.
16 ounces. Yep, and it's the cool two-tone color. So that's all available to you as part of the perks of the channel and we appreciate anything you do is obviously helping support the channel. All right, let's step aside for a minute. We'll come back. We'll break down this whole thing, talk a little bit more about the newest and the biggest news here at Syracuse University. Jerry McNamara, eminently to become the next head coach and take over this program. Can he get it back to greatness? We'll break it all down, talk about it in just a minute.
Finding the right local roofing company can be tricky. You don't want to hire the wrong roofers, or you could end up spending a fortune on repairs. The pros at Northeast Roofing Professionals can ensure your home is protected by a strong and sturdy roof. Locally owned and operated, over 30 years experience, free estimates, and competitively priced. Don't settle for an inexperienced roofing contractor. Turn to Northeast Roofing Professionals. Discounts for military and first responders. Reach out and let them put a sturdy roof over your head. NERPCNY.com. NERPCNY.com.
All right, we're back. Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital at MC Show Digital. Hit that like if you're just joining and coming into the room, and you can also subscribe to the channel if you're not already a subscriber. It's at MC Show Digital. You see the link right there, youtube.com/at MC Show Digital. Just had Matthew Gutierrez on the show with us, covered Syracuse for both the Daily Orange and then the Athletic. Matthew's had quite the life, as we were kind of chatting with him about, even towards the back end, has done some really awesome world traveling as well. Not in the sports world these days, but wanted to go back and talk to him about that piece that he wrote about Jerry McNamara's upbringing and going down to Scranton and actually seeing the house that he grew up in and kind of wandering around that neighborhood. Those were some really, really cool stories. Boy Green, anything you want to unpack there from the Matthew Gutierrez visit there? That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, like I said, the cool thing, again, it's always great to catch up with people. You know, he's not doing sports now, as you mentioned, and so our paths are going in different directions career-wise. So, you know, there was a time where we were doing the same job and we're in the trenches with each other, and we're with each other every day. So that part was really cool. And it's just, you know, it's just funny that if someone would have told me and Goody that, hey, did you know that GMac is going to be the head coach at Syracuse? Like, I just to be told that, and for that to come through fruition a decade later is just pretty wild. So, no, I'm glad to hear those stories from Goody. Again, that's why you follow people on social media. I saw he was reminiscing about stories. It was picking up some steam on social media. And it was just a random reason to go, oh, my goodness, a perfect excuse to text Goody and catch up with him and see if we could connect the dots. And again, we're going to have full coverage on the story. Neil Adler will be later this week. I was texting Mike McAllister. We could have him later this week, too. We'll figure out where all the pieces fit for everybody. But this is a new era of Syracuse basketball. And, you know, this is the path they've chosen. I think in one way, and I was going to ask Goody about this. I guess we could bring this up now, Lurch. Someone else said this on social media, so I can't take credit. But by hiring Jerry McNamara, you're admitting that, are you admitting, I guess maybe I don't know if I agree with it, but I'll throw it out to the universe. By hiring Jerry McNamara after what just happened with Autry, are you admitting that you should have hired GMac initially or not? Because I think the Siena piece is a key piece of the puzzle for me on the evaluation of GMac, that he got a chance to run his own operation and everything that obviously just happened against Duke in the tournament. So I'm not sure if I agree with that, but I saw that trending on social media, Lurch.
Well, I'm totally with you. I think that the stop at Siena to me was a necessary thing, and I think is going to make him a better coach here. So isn't that what we all want anyway? Right. Number two, and we documented it in detail in the show yesterday, so I'm not going to relive it, but they were in an impossible situation with him and Autry both sitting on that same bench. And again, I laid the two resumes out and I said, Boy Green, what was Syracuse's choice here? They would have really been, essentially jumping over another guy to get to GMac if they hadn't taken on Autry and took on GMac instead, because Autry had at that point the better resume. They're both former players again, but the amount of years coaching, just life age, everything was, how do you not take this guy? You're going to take the guy over there in the next seat. It's like getting bumped for a promotion. You know, you're the person in line. You've been there the longest. You're ready. You've been doing, you know, everything but, and now it's your turn to take over. Someone's retiring. Someone's leaving the company. And they go, now we're going to take the kid who's been here 3 years. And you're like, what? I mean, who would feel good about that? Nobody would feel good about that. The only person that feels good about that is the kid that got the job, you know, but everyone else is like, whoa, that's weird. And of course the other person's going to leave. I mean, you're not going to be able to keep that person. I mean, they're going to probably leave.
Which is basically what happened with GMac, right? Because when Autry went, GMac wasn't going to stick around. He was going to go do his own thing.
Exactly. I mean, like they're saying I'm not ready, so let me go somewhere else and show that I am ready, and then maybe I get this opportunity down the road. And this is exactly what he did. So
let's go back to my Buffalo Bills training camp lurch. We were together. We were doing a press conference with Joe Brady. I asked the question, hey, Joe, this is a little off the beaten path, but do you think your resume is missing anything to be an NFL head coach? And if so, what is it? And basically he told me to go kick rocks. But he apparently didn't need anything, and he was a head coach. But if I were to ask that same question to GMac, it's a lack of head coaching experience is a key piece of that puzzle. And he's like, okay, that's a missing piece. Let me go check that off the bucket list. Did it, and now he's back a couple of years later. So it circles all back to that.
Yeah. And I think also the cool thing about all this, and Phil's comment kind of echoes it. So Phil, you're reading my mind over there. All right. It's different leadership. If it were the same character, Chancellor and AD, don't believe GMac would have been hired. Whether you believe that or not, the bottom line is that here's the cool thing about what Jerry McNamara walks into. Jerry McNamara walks into a situation with a brand new athletic director and a brand new chancellor. And now he's
they're on the same timeline. Correct.
Right. It's just now they're all joined together at the hip, and there's this nice connection across the board. So I think it's actually good timing again in that sense.
Right.
The one thing I will unpack here real quickly about what Goody said, and I thought it was one of the more interesting things that he said in terms of perspective. And this is why I think it's good to not always talk to somebody who's covering the team right now, who's close to it, who lives here in Central New York and is going to games regularly, because we all have our perspective of being here and being very, very close to this program and its evolution and its history and so on and so forth. But for Goody, who was here, was a student here, stayed here to cover the team, became a writer for The Athletic and the New York Times, but still was checking in here and covering other basketball across the country. So now Goody's getting perspective about teams all over the country. And now he's removed X amount of years, now not even covering sports for a living. And yet, and he's just saying now, as a fan, as an objective observer, and he's an alum. Let's not forget that he's an alum, okay? But this program is not what it was 10 years ago from a national perspective, from an outsider. Get out of Central New York and the immediate area, and guess what? People are looking at this program differently than 10 years ago. That's an important perspective, I think, to have. And I think that's part of what made this coaching search so difficult, is because a guy like, let's just use him just as an example, Brian Hodgson, regardless of why he ended up choosing Providence, he has a perspective on Syracuse, and his perspective, other than the fact that he was born in Olean and grew up in the Buffalo area, all right, he didn't live in Syracuse. He's not a Syracuse alum, not a Syracuse grad. He didn't play for Syracuse. There's no other thread. Maybe, I don't know, maybe the guy attended a few Syracuse games here or there. I mean, he was drivable. I guess he could have. I have no idea if he is. Maybe he's never even attended a game at the Dome. I don't know. All right. But his perspective is one of, for the most part, even though he's a New York State guy, an outsider. And how does an outsider look at this program and its glory and what it can or can't return to? All right. I think you have to, that all goes in the blender here as you're out there trying to find the best coach and make sure that it's a fit for your program. And obviously Hodgson felt he was a better fit somewhere else, and he's headed to Providence, and that's going to be fascinating. That was a wonderful thing that you threw up there in that interview. That there's been, I already saw the chatter on social media about, man, wouldn't it be great if Syracuse, hires GMac and then they go out and they play, against Providence this coming year, like the coach who said no and the coach who said yes, and the program that Syracuse has become at that point versus what is good. May have $4 million a year more to spend in their basketball budget because they don't have a football budget to worry about, versus what Syracuse can bring to the table in a new era with Jerry McNamara. So that's fascinating. There's going to be a lot of Syracusans that are going to travel to that game for sure. Even though
Are we allowed to boo, Lurch? Because you're normally a real, judge on whether or not we should be able to boo or not boo at certain venues. Is this a boo-worthy venue?
100%. Oh yes.
Okay,
100%.
yeah. I especially neutral. I wish it was in Providence so I could yell at him even louder. But yeah, neutral site, nice. TD got it. Very nice.
Easy for me, Boy Green, to go in that building and boo. That's all I do when I go in that building is boo. That's no problem for me.
I've been in that building several times. Yes.
No matter who's playing on the other side, I'm booing in that building. As you know, as a diehard New York Knicks fan. No, thank you.
That's good.
Celtics building. Ugh. But no, that'll add a little juice, a little sauce to a game that would otherwise Syracuse Providence. People are like, I'm not making a trip.
Who cares? Right.
Syracuse Providence, Hodgson versus McNamara.
Yeah.
I'm there, baby. Got to be there for that piece of history.
What do you make of the fallout? Because I knew that Goody, I only brought it up for the storyline, not for Goody to provide any, unless he had surprisingly, some intel on it. But what do you make of how it all set up? Because now that things have played out, we can start putting up the journalistic antenna of why did it come out, the timing of Brian Hodgson apparently telling Syracuse to pack it before the tournament, like the timing of that, where Syracuse pivoted, the Syracuse got trashed on social media. Wow, you can't even get the South Florida guy. Like, it was just, it was bad for PR, but also Brian Blair's, the question with Stephen Fonte and Brian Blair about, I have to make sure I get the wording right because, like, I don't want to say it wrong, but whether it was, did you offer the job to anyone or did anyone decline the job? But then where are the semantics of what's true and what's not? Of like, well,
what construes an offer? Right.
Well, right. Because what's an offer? What's a no? Did we get to a level where the job was offered, or did you just get inklings that he wouldn't take it if it was offered? So, like, is that a decline? So, like, there's a lot of extra hoopla. So, what do you make of all this, Lurch?
Well, what I make of it is that, people in this business, and it's not just in college basketball, but in this business of sports, leverage is everything. Leverage equals money. All right. Yeah. And the more leverage you have, the more potential money there is to be made. And if you're looking to make a change, as clearly it looked like Brian Hodgson was and now has made, you are going to leverage anything and everything that you have to demand the best dollar that you can get and the longest term deal or whatever it is that you are seeking. So I think a lot of this is gamesmanship. I think a lot of it is I'll show interest or I'll chat with these guys because, heck, it never hurts to chat with someone else. I might buy that scooter over there, even though I really want yours, but I was looking at that. I'm going to go look at this other scooter and then I'll be by. Oh, wait, I can take an extra $100 off if you come here first. I want to get rid of my scooter. Yeah, but there's this other guy. All right, could you do 150 off? Okay. You know what I mean? This is what we call negotiation, Boy Green. Sure. All right. You leverage what you can leverage in order to get the best deal. And I think that's probably what was going on here. That Hodgson was leveraging Syracuse. And while there may have been some consideration to maybe coming here, I think once he saw the numbers of the budgets and what exists right now in that NIL, money world, and the idea of putting together a good roster as quickly as possible. It's money talks and what walks. And Syracuse could say, we're hoping to, we're going to, we're intending to be in the top 6, have X amount, be over $10 million, whatever their trumpet is blaring or sounding. The fact of the matter is Providence already has it. They don't have we spent this last year and we have just as much already in the budget for this year. You know what I mean? So like it's in today's world, Boy Green, if the money's already there, sometimes the coach will just go there because it's, and to be honest with you, I think this is another stepping stone. Theoretically, I think Hodgson sees Providence as another stepping stone. And does Syracuse want to be a stepping stone either? If Hodgson was to use Syracuse as a stepping stone, how would we feel about that? Brian Hodgson comes in 3 or 4 years, does a nice job. But then, no. I'm going to go over to Kansas, or I'm going to go hook up with Kentucky, or whoever has an opening at that time. That's one of the blue bloods. And then we're like, what? Syracuse is not used to that. We had 47 years of Jim Boeheim, okay? Right. And now we've had 3 years of Adrian Autry. In the last 50 years, that's all we've had. 2 guys, all right? And now we have a third. So Syracuse is not used to that kind of stuff. They don't want to get used to that kind of stuff. We have certainly seen it in the football world, and it is not a fun place to be a stepping stone. And that once your coach is successful, that coach just goes somewhere bigger.
Yeah. So, Lurch, do you know what the difference is between perception and reality?
Tell me.
It doesn't matter what you
Yeah,
think, because the reality is the perception.
of course.
Syracuse fans perceive that Hudson shoved us in a hole and said,
Right.
screw you, buddy. And we're going, and I'm going to Providence, and it's better than you, and they have more money than you, and screw you. And whether the reality is that or not, it no longer matters. The whispers in the streets have now gone to a blazing wildfire. Syracuse fans feel like Hodgson just shoved us, that he jerked us around, and he like chided us and threw us out in the streets. So now Syracuse fans are going to be fired up for this game like nobody's business.
Absolutely.
100%. So again, perception versus reality. Who knows if that's really true, but I don't know. That's the perception now. So screw you, Hudson.
Yeah, I agree. So there you have it. All right. So that's nice. So if you missed our show yesterday on the breaking news, there's a ton of information in that show as well, folks. You can go back and check that out. And it was cool to get on a guest like Goody and kind of go back and just kind of take a look at Jerry McNamara's history, a little bit about his upbringing,
interesting.
about what he's going to bring to the table. And I would expect that very soon. I bet within the next 24 to 48 hours, we will get the official announcement from Syracuse, if it hasn't already happened while we're sitting here, and that they'll get the T's crossed and the I's dotted, and then the next interesting dominoes will be the staff. Okay, is Ryan Blackwell and Arinze Anawaku coming along for the ride or not? All right, as you have on the screen there from Q's 44. Is Gavin Doty going to enter into the old transfer portal and portal his way right over to Syracuse? It's like beam him down, beam him over.
That's
right.
You're +1. You go to a wedding, Lurch, you get a +1. GMac, +1. Doty.
Is there anyone else on that Siena roster that's worthy of a role at the very least for Syracuse? So that's all in the fire. And then, of course, getting to work on everything else. What about the guys that are here and do still have eligibility? Who does Gerry want to keep? Who is he going to sit down with immediately and find out, are you willing to stay? I want you to stay. Will you stay? All right. We'll get some answers on that in the near future. And then finally, obviously, the portal opens and, let the recruiting begin. Now, how do I piece together a roster using the portal and then whatever we're doing, down the road here for high school recruiting? So it's a big job. Jerry's got a big, big job in front of him.
Sure.
And it won't be an easy job. But I do think because of who he is, because of the journey he's taken, he is going to get, I think, immediate support from, 90% of the fan base. There's always going to be the doubters out there. There's the haters out there. We see them in the comments. We see them everywhere. This is the stupidest thing. He's a awful hire. He doesn't deserve the job. Whatever. You have your opinion and you're welcome to it. But I think 90% of the fan base will inevitably, even if they didn't agree with it before it happened, will accept this decision, will get behind this decision, and more importantly, will get behind this particular guy who I think at the very least deserves that. I mean, does he not deserve the support of this Syracuse fan base after everything he's done for this program? I mean, if you can't do that, you're just a heartless fan and you should go root for Georgetown in all due respect. Wow. Okay. Or, head on down to New York City and be a St. John's fan. I mean, whatever you want to be, but
which is not a bad thing to be right now. I mean,
to me, what kind of Syracuse fan are you? I mean, I understand if you disagreed, and that's perfectly legit to say, I don't think it's the right time, and I don't know if he's going to succeed. But now that he's coming, now you, in my opinion, especially because of who it is, you have to get behind it. You have to get behind it.
I would think.
And I think most people will. So that's the epitaph at this point. And then he's got a job to do. And
let's see.
It's not an easy job. And can the AD, Brian Blair, can he live up to that which we were hearing, behind the scenes? Pete Hamill is a very, very good reporter. He usually knows what's going on with things.
He doesn't normally just blather nonsense.
If there was significant dialogue with Gerry, and I'm sure even some of the other coaches that they were considering or looking at about how they see this NIL budget evolving, how much more they think they can squeeze out of this orange, so to speak. I tend to believe that that's true too. So let's see if Syracuse can
top six.
How quickly can Brian Blair and his his band of fundraisers get out there and fundraise? Are we going to see as many people in the Syracuse fan base want to see? the reappearance of Adam Weitzman.
Oh,
Will he be back in the
He
dome?
worked with
Will he-
GMac at Siena, so
I
that's
know.
worth noting.
No question about it. There's a relationship there that continued
Yeah.
beyond Syracuse. So is Adam Weitzman, do people want Adam Weitzman back in the fold? What kind of money would he bring in? Are we talking about celebrities courtside again?
Jimmy Fallon's back,
next to the
baby.
bench, or is he sitting up in the 300 section? I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah,
I don't think he would sit in the 300 section.
Probably not.
That was the option.
Probably not.
But these are all. This is what makes this soap opera so fascinating. So fascinating, and it will be a fascinating ride.
Yeah.
And I think it's one that I'm obviously going to enjoy covering, enjoy watching, and I hope my alma mater can get back on top, man. We've been in the shadows here for a bit.
A bit.
We need a St. John's like splash here. St. John's yesterday by winning that game, and what an exciting game that was.
Right to the cup. Oh, beautiful.
Guy drives on the final day, and all the fouling. You see all the crazy fouling because they have like 4 fouls to give or 3 fouls to give, and they're just fouling them all the way up the court to try to waste the time.
Yeah.
And they literally get less than 4 seconds to try and get a bucket and the point guard.
And the guy who hadn't scored just like gets that
miserable day. He's a good player. He's having a miserable day. He says, "I'm just taking it.
Calling my own number."
Nice. Calling my own number, and he delivers. That was a beautiful thing. But you got to remember, folks, St. John's was dead. I mean, dead as a doornail. If you think it's dead here in Syracuse, you haven't seen anything. St. John's was a disaster. Okay, they were changing coaches every couple of years. Couldn't figure out anything. They were a mess. They couldn't win games. They couldn't recruit players. Nothing was going right there. And look at them. One guy.
First Sweet 16 this century.
Yeah, 1999 was the last time they were in the Sweet 16. So, wow, what a birth for them. And I give them a pretty good puncher's chance. They got Duke. That's not going to be easy.
Come on, take out John Shire by the knees.
How do you get that, that difficult Northern Iowa team that's the best defensive team in the country? You got to deal with them in the first round. That was a physical game. Then you got to play a blue blood in Kansas, who, albeit is not, a mind-blowing Kansas this year, but still a 4 seed in the tournament and a very
Kansas, right?
With a couple of really good players. All right. And they figure that one out. And now you get Duke. My goodness. Gosh. I mean, if St. John's gets to the Final Four this year, man, big time hats off. I mean, they have absolutely earned it. Incredible.
Larch, think about the songs they will write about St. John's. Think about the war cries they'll have in future bars about St. John's if they make it through this cavalcade. It'll be one of the best paths, most impressive paths to a title ever.
It's going to be a fun game against Duke. I think that's going to be a very competitive game. I think
Pitino.
I think they match up pretty well. And Pitino, here's the thing about Pitino. Not that Shire can't coach either. He's a pretty good coach too, but a younger coach. Give Pitino those extra days. And I haven't peeked at the schedule yet, BG. Can you take a quick look and just see when St. John's plays? I don't know if it's Thursday or Friday. But what I was going to say is every day of preparation that you give Rick Pitino makes it just that much more difficult for you to beat a Rick
Friday
Pitino.
night.
So they got all the way to Friday. So that's a total blessing. So they have all the way to Friday to plan. Pitino is going to be combing through the Duke tape. He's going to be coming up with all kinds of crazy stuff. They're going to throw the kitchen sink at those guys. He's going to be ready. That team is going to be ready. Now it's just a matter of can they perform. And they have players on that roster that can step up to the big moment. So that's going to be, I am absolutely positively on that game. What time is that game? Do you have the
7:10.
7:10. I mean, I'm locked and loaded. Friday night, 7:10. Don't bother me, Boy Green. I don't care what's going on in the world.
Good to know.
I'm sitting in the front TV watching Duke St. John's.
Hey, in the middle of all that tape studying, Rick Pitino, I've got another one for you. Watch some Rocky, okay? And then put on Rocky on one TV, and on the other TV, put up Duke Siena. And he's just a man, Rocky. He's just a man. Okay, Siena had Duke up against the ropes. If Siena, with all due respect, can have Duke up against the ropes, come on, St. John's. They're just a man. Take them out.
Yeah. Pitino, just play this clip.
There's one thing I want you to do for me.
What?
Come here.
What?
Win. Win.
What are we waiting for? Take this!
What are we waiting
Roll out
for?
the Rocky, roll out whatever you can, man.
100%.
Fantastic. That's going to be outstanding. Friday night. There you go, folks. 7:10 NCAA tournament. It's so far it's been an enjoyable tournament. I'm a little down with college basketball. I won't lie. I've told you that. We've talked about it. I'm a little down because of just kind of the state of college basketball. I don't like the lack of governance. I don't like the way it is just becoming a money game. It's to me, they've ruined some of the aspects of college basketball that I've loved the most, watching it and covering it all these years. But the tournament's been good.
Yeah, very
great games. That St. John's game was amazing. Yeah. There have been some other cool buzzer beaters.
For sure.
That Kentucky game in the last round with the banker from half court and then the win in overtime. That was insane.
Near misses where you said, "Oh my God, a buzzer beater! No, it goes! Oh God, devastation!"
Some close calls. Yep. So that's that's why that we watch it every year. I always stay up for it, is to see the One Shining Moment video, man, just to remember all the cool things that happened during the course of just a singular tournament. That's what makes it such a great event. It's the single elimination, and that you just, no matter what, you're going to get some unbelievable moments. And we've already gotten a good handful of them, and there are definitely more to come. We are only at the Sweet 16. You're going to do one of those repick deals?
No. I think those are for losers, quite frankly. Hey,
that's the whole idea, is that you're a loser, so you get back in on the.
100%. Shout out to those people, right? The ESPNs, the CBS Sports, all these places that do it. They're like, you've got another chance. Just because your bracket's destroyed and annihilated in a million pieces does not mean you're out. Here's a mulligan. Here's another shot. They're like, all right, you got me. And then they go, no, it's a sheet of integrity. One whack at the pinata, and that's it. I mean, we'll talk, like, if we did a bracket challenge this year, we'd talk about, there'd be a segment where an intern would give us a sheet, say, hey, re-rack them. What would you do? Like, okay, I would do that for the gizmo of the radio show, but come on, man. No, absolutely not.
I don't know why I even give him any props, because he's just here to be annoying, and I probably shouldn't even put him on the screen.
Oh, I know where this is going.
He's been in the comments the whole time, just trying to annoy us. I should tell him before I even put his comment up there. And the only reason I'm putting your comment up there, Jamie, the FedEx guy, in a second, all right, is that you're a Hall of
Famer. Yeah, you have to.
The Manchild Show with Boy Green. That you support our channel. So as much as I can't stand you, you support us, so I must support 100%. You. I hate the way you think. And I hate that you're just trying to irritate all these wonderful Syracuse people in the comments, which is what you're trying to do. We've got you red, pal. We've got you red. Okay. We know what you're doing. You're just putting frivolous things in the comments to annoy the people who actually feel like this thing could work. But he says, good luck, Manchild, and follows it up with SU bottom feeders in the ACC, and making all kinds of other comments, about us.
Trying to bait other Syracuse fans in the comments section.
All right. You're just lucky you're a Hall of Famer.
That's true.
Jamie, you got that he's got that little icon next to his name there, folks, on the right,
loyalty badge. Yeah.
That's a loyalty badge, as we call it here. We're going to tell people about membership, about loyalty badges. I think a lot of people, and we get new people into the channel all the time, that don't really know how YouTube works, that don't know how you support a channel, don't know how you become a member. Tell people a little bit about how you do that kind of stuff.
Of course, the free way you guys can contribute is by liking the video and hitting subscribe. We got a couple hundred people in the room right now, which we appreciate. Thank you so much. And our breaking pop-up show yesterday is doing wonderful numbers for people that shot live and after the fact. And we're very appreciative. Again, cheers, Lurch. We didn't do this on the show yet, but maybe you have another video package. We surpassed over 800 subscribers on the show. Nice. Yeah, so I don't know if there's some celebration
video or something here.
Sure. Let's pop the bubbly.
We got something good here. Hold on,
the
writing on our little panel is so small, and now I'm a reading glasses kind of guy. So sorry for the nerdy.
I don't judge.
Reading glasses.
I don't judge.
Here. Right. Okay.
Something good.
Something good. Let's see. I always like this one. I mean, you can never go wrong with Terry Tate, the Office linebacker. I always think he's good. So here's one of my favorites.
You know you need a cover sheet on your TPS reports, Richard. That ain't new, baby.
Hey, Terry.
Hey, Janice. Mother.
I love
Terry Tate, Office linebacker. Great, which again, it's on your screen right now. No matter what app you happen to be watching, we stream live on Facebook occasionally, YouTube, Twitter. Hop on over to youtube.com/@MCShowDigital. Show your support. And again, the Syracuse show pushed us over the top yesterday, and now we're well over 800 subscribers. And our real chase is 1,000 subscribers. Once we get there, we're really operating. We're really buttering our bread there. So that would be spectacular. So again,
you become kind of relevant on YouTube when you get to 1,000. Semi-relevant. Obviously, they're out there with people with millions of subscribers.
Sure.
And sure, we'd love that. But the fact of the matter is, we've only been out here a little over 7 months, and we're really proud of the subscribers that have found us. But one of the things with YouTube and the way the algorithm works and everything is, they're not pushing us out everywhere so that people even know we exist. So we've very recently, in the last 2-3 weeks, had people come back and say, "I didn't even know you guys were doing this," commenting and so on and so forth. So that just tells you, again, we are subject to what YouTube, how YouTube handles us. And the more subscribers we get, the more likes we get, the more people that become members, the more powerful the brand becomes on YouTube. And then that allows the brand to get out to other people who would love our content and would love to be checking in on not only Syracuse stuff that we cover, but obviously we cover football big time, Jets, Giants, and Bills. We call ourselves the New York football team. So that is where we butter our bread. But because we reside right here in Central New York and have covered the Syracuse football and basketball teams for years, we have stayed on that bandwagon and have tried to cover as many of those stories as we can, at least the big ones. So that's kind of our modus operandi. So if you like that kind of stuff, you can help spread the word. But ultimately, the best way you can help the word be spread is to subscribe to the channel, tell other people to subscribe to the channel who love the content, and we get ourselves above 1,000, and then YouTube starts opening up some doors for us, and now other people will see us that would likely be interested in our content. So that's kind of the way.
Yeah, so this is the free way to contribute. So no one has to pay a single dime to like videos and hit subscribe, which you can do on every video we do. That helps get it out to other fans organically when they're searching for it. And again, if you want to go to the next level, you were a fan of Bud of the Manchild, you were a fan of the Manchild Show with Boy Green, or now in this new world, the digital era that we're in, there is a way for you to financially, monetarily support the show. There's a big button if you're watching on YouTube. It says join. Okay, you click that, you can become a member, right? There's two different things you can do. A subscriber, that's free. You can choose to subscribe. You'll get notifications about our content and things of that nature. But becoming a member is a part of a loyal community of people that support the show. We have 3 YouTube membership levels. The 12th Man Shop for $4.99 a month. The Diehards for $9.99 a month. And Jamie the Facts Guy, who we brought up earlier, is one of the Hall of Famers, $19.99 a month. So here's how it works. In each category, as you can see sort of presented on our screen here, you get different perks depending on which level you're on. Now, every new level you reach, the Die Hard level, you get everything for the 12th Man Child level. If you're a Hall of Fame member, you get everything for the 12th Man Child, Die Hard, and the Hall of Famer level. So every level you increase, you get the previous levels. But for instance, 12th Man Child, $5 a month is where you can start. Loyalty badge next to your name, which we highlighted there from Jamie. Access to our emojis. As we get new subscribers and more subscribers, we'll have more access to more emojis. So we'll get even more the more powerful the brand becomes. There's member shout-outs, as we were just doing there with Jamie the Facts Guy live on the show. Priority reply to comments. When you guys comment on our pre-recorded videos or live videos, we'll interact with you in the comments section. Early access to new videos. Several of our interviews are pre-recorded. You could get, for instance, our Bud Poliquin interview. Normally we record that on a Monday night, and then it goes to the general public on Tuesday morning. You don't have to wait for Tuesday morning if you're a member to the channel. You can get that interview immediately, and I'm sure Bud's going to be rubbing it in our face that he boldly predicted that Jerry McNamara would be the head coach last week. So a lot of perks. So again, guys, this is sort of an outlay here. There's 3 different membership levels. If you hit join on your screen, you can join our YouTube community.
And there's 2 other things you can do too. You can buy memberships for other people.
Sure.
And the way that works is you hit the little $sign and then you can buy memberships for people. And we've had many people do that, and we appreciate generosity. And that gets people who are already watching the channel now membership privileges. And if they enjoy the membership, maybe they become a member themselves. The other thing is there's this thing called Super Chats, which I love, where you can just basically say, hey, I want to give you $1 or $2 or $5 or whatever you want to donate, whatever you're feeling on a given day. You literally just donate it to the channel, but then you get a cool little, your comments light up. We see it right away, and you get preference. We bring you onto the comments right away and usually discuss whatever it is that you've put in the comments. Sometimes it can just be something fun, like I love the show, guys, just want to show my support. Sometimes it can be, what do you think about, Mike Hopkins coming on as the next GM of Syracuse?
I saw that earlier.
Good idea, right? I saw that earlier from someone in the comments, and boom, we'll pop that comment up as soon as possible in the middle of our discussion and give you some props again for contributing to the channel. So there's all kinds of cool ways that you can both monetarily and through subscribership support the channel. Any way you can do it, we appreciate it for sure. But there are perks if you do become a member, and you saw some of those perks on there. And when you go into membership, you click the join button, it will show you the different membership levels as Boy Green put on the board there, and you can see what level you're comfortable with and what kind of perks you'd love to get out of the membership. So there's all kinds of cool stuff there.
Yeah, and one more thing, actually, if you're watching YouTube, you hit that money sign. There's a thing. I still don't know what the hell this is, but it is a thing. It's called a super sticker. You can't say any message with it, but you could give an amount of money and it lights up in a colorful way called the super sticker. I've talked to a lot of people saying, what is that? I don't know. So every once in a while, Austrian Jets fan, or, it could be one of many subscribers of the Boy Green Show, send in a super sticker for $2, $5, $10. I'm like, all right, well, this is pretty cool. I don't know what this is, but yes, it's there. So it's sort of a running joke of this mystery prize of gifting. So that's another choice. And yes, also just a quick explanation. When you guys give channel memberships, it is random. So you can't choose to give it to Q's_44. It's random up to the YouTube overlords. But another way to put yourself in a good position to receive a gifted membership is the most active people on a channel are the ones that YouTube randomly draws from to pull it. So Q's_44, just because I see him here in front of my face here, if he comments all the time, every day, likes videos and all those things, when memberships are gifted, he is the most likely of all the subscribers to receive a gifted membership if one is gifted out in the audience. So one of the cool perks.
All right, BG, and just go back on topic here for a minute. So I knew we were going to spend most of the show today talking about Jerry McNamara and this hire because it's hot off the presses, and so there'll be even some more residual stuff. But we've hit it hard the last couple of days. I just want to go back to buttering our bread where we typically butter it, and that is with NFL news. A couple of things I just want to mention. If you want to comment on them, you can. Number one, JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba got a record extension with Seattle. Here's a good one for Syracuse fans. Tommy DeVito is now QB2 in New England. Because they cut Dobbs. Cam Scadaboo had a very tasteless joke over the weekend about CTE and has apologized for that. Good for him. Smart to apologize. That was not cool what he said at all, considering everything that's going on with CTE. So those are some cool stories that are out there just today. And this one may not be in the news. It's more in the rumor mill world. But I'm hearing more and more rumblings, Boy Green, about Kayvon Thibodeau and whether or not the Giants are, again, continuing to try to kind of maneuver here and maybe try to put together some kind of trade for Kayvon Thibodeau, possibly before the NFL draft, which we know is, what, a month away now?
Right. A month from today, as a matter of fact, Lurch. We are exactly here we go. I'll do this for all the people out in the audience. Maybe I don't know if it's all our buttons got reimagined, so maybe not. Let's see. Oh, we have a ton of buttons here. Here it is. There you go. We are officially a month from today. It is April 23rd is the NFL draft, and I will be there in Pittsburgh. We were at that last summer, Lurch. We're at that sign, and we recorded some shorts in front of it, and I stood in front of that thing, and I will stand there once again for the draft and hear whatever the hell the Jets, Giants, Bills, and everyone else are going to do. I will be there for that. Yeah, we are a month out from today. There you go.
Fantastic. So NFL draft a month away, and teams still trying to figure out their rosters and everything ahead of time. Yeah. And obviously, if the Giants were able to move Kayvon Thibodeau, they'd have, number one, a bunch of money available.
Sure.
And might that result in some additional free agent signings? And then, it also kind of sets them up more readily for what it is that they need. They feel like they need the most in this year's NFL draft as they go through that process. And theoretically, too, they'd get a draft pick out of this deal.
Right.
Many rumoring it'd be as bad as a 4th or a 5th rounder. I'd like to see nothing less than a 2nd rounder. I think worst case scenario, I guess I would take a 3rd rounder, to get out of that contract. But boy, I just, to me, this guy's a 1st round pick and he's still young. And I would hate if he goes somewhere else and then becomes the beast that we all thought he was going to be when we drafted him. And then, what do we get from a 4th rounder? I mean, come on. Yeah. Even a 3rd rounder would be not so inspiring, but the Giants do not have a pick in the 3rd round this year. So that would be logical that you get your pick back in the 3rd round and you have a more complete draft rather than having that big lag in between picks, which is never fun. You see some players on the board that you love and they're all going to other teams and you're like, oh, so NFL draft is always a hoot there. So, and cool for Tommy DeVito. What do you think of that? QB2?
Yeah.
Tommy DeVito, you think that'll stick in New England?
Yeah, first off, I'll give you a tip of the cap. I loved you channeling your inner Sonny Weaver Jr. I want my picks back. Again,
Yes.
trying to get
Want
that
them all
third
back.
round pick
Them all
Yeah, there
back.
you go. Very, very nice. Yeah, I do think it'll stick. Tommy DeVito received a nice extension. He was a free agent this offseason. Joshua Dobbs, a former rocket scientist at NASA, now hits the free agent streets. They
Yes,
attempted to
that's right.
trade him, but were unable to. I'm sure he will find a job. He's a really smart kid. But no, I think Tommy's done himself very well. It sort of all worked out for Tommy. The Giants moved on. He was set to be on waivers. I know the New York Jets were interested in claiming him, but they didn't have a shot because the Patriots had higher waiver wire priorities. So now he ends up in New England, goes to the Super Bowl as a backup his first year. Good for him. He gets nice money, some good guaranteed money. Now Dobbs moves on. He looks like Drake May likes him. That's part of the backup quarterback thing. So no, I'm very happy for Tommy. Happy for Tommy's agent, Sean Stellato. Good for them. I'm glad. And I think, hey, we've talked about this for a long time, Lurch. Being a clipboard holder is the best job in the world. And anyone can be a clipboard holder. You just have to make sure you don't ruffle feathers. You're doing your due diligence. You're doing the work. And obviously Tommy is. So I'm very happy for Tommy. That's massive, massive. And I would just say on your Giants Kayvon Thibodeau thing, if I'm the Giants and you're going to trade him, you better trade him before the draft or you're just getting worse as a football team. Because, like, if you can trade him somewhere in the next month and you get a draft pick, okay, we lose Kayvon Thibodeau, but we save money and we get a pick that we can use immediately. You trade him after the draft, unless it's a player-player swap, you're getting worse. You're giving up a very talented player for, a pick in 2027? That doesn't do anything for the Giants this year. So, to me, if I'm the Giants, I try to move. If I'm going to move Kayvon Thibodeau, I try to do it somewhere here over the next month. See if you can strike a deal. If not, you keep him and let it ride. I just think that would be a very poor choice from that perspective. JSN, again, the highest paid receiver in football history. That broke this morning. Good for him. The Jets.
What an amazing year he had this past year.
Oh, it was spectacular. And Sam Darnold was the one that fed him, and he was nearly the first receiver in NFL history to have over 2,000 yards. Quite frankly, he should have. He was on pace to, but there was a few offensive performances, unfortunately, which is just enough. To have that kind of record-breaking season, you have to be on all season long, and he was really talented, really good, but there was a few games, and you saw it in fantasy, we're like, how do we go through a half or a game where he ends up with this? It's unbelievable. So I'm very happy for JSN. Good for the receiver market. I mean, it's exploded. I wasn't sure when Jamar Chase was going to get topped, and he got topped. So that's amazing for JSN. Garrett Wilson is now no longer a top 5 highest paid receiver in football. He got kicked out of the club because of JSN now. So good for that on the Garrett Wilson stuff. So, man, a lot of breaking news, Lurch. A lot of breaking news. I don't know if I missed one of your stories in there, but yeah, there you go.
All right. Do you want to? It's up to you. You make the call, Boy Green. This is gonna. I'll
Okay.
put this on you. Okay.
All right.
So,
Sure.
I've kind of hit everything I want to hit today. So the truth is, do you want to take a few phone calls, open up the dangerous phone lines to these lunatics out there, or are we going to sign? Come back on Wednesday. Of course, we'll have Bud tonight, and we'll be dropping that tomorrow. But again, like Boy Green said, if you become a member, you could get Bud tonight. I am definitely chomping at the bit to hear what Bud's going to have to say. Is he going to gloat? Because he did profess to us after not necessarily being, number one advocate for Gerry becoming the next coach. He said, Gerry will be the next coach. We put his feet to the fire and said, so are you saying? And he said, yes, I am. And then, of course, it happened. So good for Bud. I think we were all, and that was before Siena. All right. That was before Hodgson said no. All right. That's when Bud proclaimed it. So you got to give him some credit. He was in front of the curve a little bit. He was. All kind of flipped over to Gerry's side of things once we got to see that game against Duke. And we were like, now Hodgson has said no. Gerry goes out and has this kind of performance. It's the ultimate job interview. Come on. If you're sitting in the Syracuse offices tonight and you've watched that game, how do you not say, let's get on the phone with this guy right away? I mean, come on. I mean, it just seems like the stars are all aligning here. And I think that's what happened for Gerry here. And that happens sometimes with jobs, where the stars just align. And all of a sudden, you're a candidate, but you're maybe not the leading candidate. And then something happens, and now you're the leading candidate. And I think that's kind of the way this went down.
Yeah, I would say I think the best course of action here is not a surprise phone call list. It's to tease it for Wednesday. That if you want to call into the
Good idea.
program, get some build up, tease it a bit, and we should have a super fun show on Wednesday. We should have our NFL insider Matt Lombardo, and we'll see what else cooks. Maybe McAllister or a Syracuse. Maybe there's another nugget to the Jerry McNamara story we can continue on. Who knows? But I think that's it. Let's tease him, get a couple of days of activity. That's, I think, the proper play.
All right, fair enough. Okay, so we'll do phone calls on Wednesday's show. We'll carve out a little bit of time, and we'll do some video calls on Wednesday's show. So if you're in the room today, come back on Wednesday for our live show, same time, 11 o'clock, and we will carve out some time in Wednesday's show to take some callers and for you to talk about Gerry or talk about anything that you really want to talk about, football, anything that's on your mind. We will have, as usual, we open our show on Wednesdays with our NFL insider, Matt Lombardo from Between the Hash Marks. So he'll be joining us as always. I got that right?
You sure did. You nailed it, Lurch. I didn't say a word.
Scared every time it comes out of my mouth. And so we will recap any of this, including those stories we were just talking about, all the NFL stuff, anything else that Matt's been writing about in the NFL as we are closing in. We're only a month away from the NFL draft. It's going to be a lot of fun things to talk about. All right, again, thanks to everybody who joined us today. We do appreciate it. Again, hit that subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber. If you're a subscriber, hit the like. And if you're interested in membership, now you know how to get membership. Just click that join button and you can join in and get some cool perks for being a member. We will see you live on Wednesday. Bud video coming out tomorrow. Plenty of content all week, including Jets, Giants, and Bills insiders. Neil Adler will be back with us again on Friday. And Boy Green, I think. I don't want to make a promise yet, but I have talked to the powers that be, and we may be doing a special non-sports related pop-up live show this Friday. All right. More details coming on that as the week goes on. I won't let the cat out of the bag yet, but it ought to be a really fun show. All right. Something completely outside of the box. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, inspired by one of your viewers on the Boy Green Daily Show that you do every morning, your All Jets show, Easy. All right. He inspired this, and then I was like, all right, Easy. We're going to do it. We're going to do something here that, Easy didn't ask us to do it, but Easy inspired me.
It's an honor.
Yeah. I want to do something fun. I used to, be a musician in my prior life, if you want to call it that. And, I was like, let's do something, around music. So we'll let you know, but I'm pretty sure everything's lining up. I have talked to all of the principals, I think. Now it's just lock the time down, but I think we're going to do it on Friday morning. We'll do a completely outside of the box, non-sports show, just for your entertainment purposes only. So for those that love music, a little music-based Manchild show with Boy Green Digital, just to make our lives just that much more interesting. And also for anybody that's in here that loves the TV show Survivor, I mentioned that. Wednesday nights after every Survivor episode, myself, Boy Green, and Brett LaBelle, the former Survivor himself from the Millennials versus Gen X season, joins us, and we break down the Survivor episode of that week. So we do essentially a recap show and break it down, give our opinions on what happened in the show and what's to come and all kinds of crazy predictions. That's every Wednesday night. We convene pretty much right after the Survivor episode happens. So you just pop into our channel. You'll see we'll have a live all set up there. You can pop into that room, and usually within 10, 15 minutes after the show is over, we are in the room with Brett. We usually do about 45 minutes or an hour. Comments are welcome. And questions are welcome as well. Or if you just like to hear, what we think about what's going on with Survivor 50, this very, very big season of Survivor with all the returning players, you want to pop in on Wednesday nights. We do a little late night Wednesday nights, put on a little ambient lighting, and have a little bit of fun on Wednesday nights. So that's coming again this Wednesday. We'll be doing that throughout all of season 50 of Survivor. So we're ready, put 4 episodes to bed, Boy Green?
Yeah, that's right.
We're headed for episode 5 this week. Seeing CBS doing a lot of advertising for Survivor in the last few days. I almost can't, I've been watching the tournament a lot on CBS. And
naturally.
Everywhere. So if you like the TV show Survivor, that's a little outside the box thing that we've done for years, and we're going to continue to do it for the near future. And we are doing it as we speak every Wednesday night with Brett LaBelle. All right. Well, that'll do it for our show today. Again, want to thank our title sponsor, our Northeast Roofing Professionals. Thank the folks at the Allen Floral Group, especially Floral Gardens, for their sponsorship of today's video. And most of all, thanks to all of you for joining us. We will see you again live on Wednesday at 11, but plenty of content coming down the pike in the meantime. We'll see you, folks. Take care.